Shocking truth. Cleaning lady's daughter speaks 9 languages, humbles Arab millionaire at 3 a.m. In the dead of night, when the world was cloaked in silence, a dark figure moved swiftly through the shadows of the city, a cleaning lady's daughter with a secret that could shock even the wealthiest of men. At 3 a.m., while others dreamt, she was awake, wide-eyed and fierce. The soft glow of streetlights glinted off her dark hair, revealing an intensity in her gaze that seemed too powerful for a girl of only 17. She was about to confront an empire, and no one saw it coming. As the clock struck 3, her heart raced. Rumors whispered through the air like errant leaves, tales of her uncanny ability to speak 9 languages, each word rolling off her tongue like honey. Mandarin, Arabic, Spanish, and more. She could weave conversation like an artist paints a canvas. And tonight, she had set her sights on a local millionaire known for his arrogance, someone who believed riches could silence anyone. But she was about to humiliate him in front of his elite guests. The building towered above her, glass reflecting the bright moon, as she made her way to the opulent party inside. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and the smooth sounds of jazz. But when the millionaire saw her, striding confidently through the gilded doors, an uneasy silence fell. Who was this girl? His confusion turned to annoyance. You don't belong here, he sneered, his eyes narrowing. But she just smiled, lips curling like a spring awaiting a release. There was something magnetic about her. The tension thickened. She was no mere cleaning lady's daughter. The crowd leaned in, curiosity wrapping around them like a shroud. What was she about to say? With biting wit, she responded in flawless Arabic, her voice slicing through the brocade of the evening. Gasps erupted, eyes widened, a flood of shock swept through the room. The millionaire's face paled as she rattled off not just words, but truths he'd buried deep. The rich often get complacent, but nothing else sat uneasily as she pierced through his aura of superiority. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Her commanding presence shifted the tides in that moment. She had wrestled control from the millionaire, yet she still trembled beneath the surface, her heart hammering mercilessly. What was going to happen next? The crowd was a swirling sea of shock, and intrigue. Murmurs rippled through, mingling with disbelief. Every eye was on the two of them, anticipating the next shocking turn. She was drawing deep from a well of unspoken courage, her hands trembling slightly, but she kept her ground. And then, just as quickly, the moment turned. The millionaire's smile twisted. Was it fear or rage? He leaned forward, eyes blazing. You'll regret this, he hissed. The room held its breath, caught in a taut web of tension. She felt a chill run down her spine as uncertainty flickered to life in her chest. The crowd held its collective breath, hearts racing, caught between hope and dread. What would happen to her? Would she walk away unscathed? Or had she provoked a fire she could not control? The polished floors echoed with the ticking clock, and the night was far from over. But what could she possibly say next to keep the upper hand? The air crackled with unspoken possibilities. Only one thing was certain. The game had just begun, and her story was about to twist in ways no one could imagine. The energy in the room shifted, as if a thunderstorm was brewing just beneath the surface. Her breath quickened, each inhalation sharp as glass. The millionaire's threat hung heavy in the air, weighing down on her. But she wasn't about to back down, not now. The eyes of the crowd bore into her, anticipating her next move. What would you do to silence the truth? She shot back, her voice steady, barely concealing the tremor of adrenaline beneath. The room tensed again, disbelief etching lines on the faces around them. She had turned his threat back on him, a razor-sharp reflection that momentarily caught him off guard. For a flicker of a second, uncertainty danced in his eyes before his facade reassembled itself. You think you can embarrass me, little girl? His voice was a low growl, his commanding presence eclipsing her momentarily. Around them, prestigious guests leaned closer, their curiosity a mix of anticipation and a primal need to witness a spectacle unfold. She had ignited something deep within the millionaire's ego, a flame of anger intertwined with humiliation. As he stepped closer, she could smell the faint scent of expensive cologne mixed with a whiff of toxicity that seemed to seep from his pores. It repulsed her yet fueled her resolve. "It's not about you," she retorted, her words like arrows targeting his heart. "It's about all the lives you've trampled over, the people you've silenced with your money." Her words carved into the silence, echoing like a primal drum, pushing back the walls he had built around himself. Gasps erupted around the room, people shifting in discomfort. Could it be? Was she really challenging one of the most feared men in the city? Unease rippled through the crowd as whispers started, a hushed symphony of disbelief mixed with spirit. The millionaire's face flushed bright red, a stark contrast against the otherwise polished atmosphere of the event. He squared his shoulders, and for a moment, it seemed as if he might actually strike her, an absurd notion that echoed through her mind. But instead, he merely sneered, his arrogance a last bastion. "You think you're something special, don't you? Just a cleaning lady's daughter playing dress-up among real people." The words hit her like a slap, and in that instance, her resolve faltered. Memories of her mother's weary expression, the struggles they faced, the dreams that felt just out of reach, flooded her mind. But she pushed back the wave of hurt. This was her moment. The truth was her weapon. "Yes," she replied, raising her chin defiantly. "I'm not only a cleaning lady's daughter. I'm a force you created yourself. The very system you represent has built me." The crowd sucked in a collective breath, incredulous, all replacing the apprehension in their eyes. But the millionaire wasn't finished. "You don't even know who you're dealing with." His voice dripped with menace, each word meticulously measured. "I could ruin your life before you even leave this room." A knot tightened in her gut as she met his gaze, defiance coursing through her veins. Could he truly follow through on such a threat? Would he? The walls around her suddenly felt smaller, the laughter from before replaced with an unsettling chill. She sensed a threat bigger than herself, more monstrous than she had anticipated. "Or maybe," she said slowly, voice steady but heart racing, "I could ruin yours." At that moment, the door to the room slammed open, sending an unexpected shockwave through the crowd. All heads turned toward the entrance, a ripple of surprise slicing through the tension like a knife. Who or what had just arrived? The millionaire lost the edge in his eyes for a fleeting moment, and she seized it. Fear churned in her gut, but exhilaration surged alongside it. The stakes had just risen, and she was caught in a game that felt larger than her, larger than life itself. As the figure stepped forward, cloaked in shadows, it became clear this night was about to take another dramatic turn. Who was it? And how would they reshape this night of chaos? What would they reveal? And more crucially, would she emerge from this night intact or altered forever? The figure moved into the light, revealing a woman swathed in a crimson dress that clung to every curve, her hair cascading like molten gold. A low murmur swept through the room, people whispering and glancing at one another, barely able to conceal their curiosity. She had an air of power that made her almost regal, utterly captivating. "Who is she?" the millionaire hissed, his bravado cracking slightly as anxiety flickered across his face. For the first time, he looked uncertain, like a king who had just noticed a challenger on his throne. "Someone willing to expose your secrets," the woman replied, her voice smooth yet assertive. She scanned the room, meeting eyes that widened with intrigue. Then she turned back to the millionaire, an eyebrow raised, daring him to challenge her authority. Heat surged up the millionaire's neck as he clenched his fists. "You think you can just walk in here, and enough?" The woman interjected, power resonating from her every word. "You've played your games for too long. This is about to stop." A stunned silence enveloped the crowd. The atmosphere thickened, as if time froze, hanging on her bold proclamation. Those in attendance were no longer just passive observers. They leaned forward, entranced by the unfolding drama. "What do you know?" he retorted, his voice shaky but desperate to hold his ground. She took a step closer, unflinching. "I know about the offshore accounts, the pending lawsuits, the people you've driven to ruin. I know the truth about your empire, built on lies and shattered lives. And I've got the evidence to back it up." Each word fell like a hammer, reverberating in the air. The crowd gasped collectively, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Who was this woman? The millionaire laughed, but it was a hollow sound, echoing uneasily around the room. You think your threats scare me? You're just another nobody looking for attention. You have no idea who you're messing with. The woman stepped even closer, piercing the air with tension. And you have no idea who you're underestimating. I'm not afraid of you. I've been watching your games from the sidelines, and I've seen enough. Her words hung heavy, a lingering promise of vengeance. If on cue, a phone buzzed violently within her clutch. The sound sliced through the silence, pulling everyone's attention. The woman glanced at the screen, her eyes narrowing. I have to take this. She stepped aside, and the room pulsed with speculation. What could she have known? Whispers ignited like wildfire. Would her call spell doom for the millionaire, or lead to her own downfall? The millionaire's expression twisted with fury. You think a phone call will save you? You're nothing. His words dripped with venom, yet he glanced at the door, as if weighing his next move. She kept her voice low, gesturing with an urgency that demanded attention. I know you're scared. You should be. You already crossed a line, and there's no turning back. The room buzzed, the tension spiraling out of control. A bead of sweat trickled down the millionaire's temple, revealing cracks in his composed facade. Suddenly, she raised her phone to the crowd. But instead of me telling you what's going to happen, why don't I let the truth spill out? At that moment, a sense of impending chaos flooded the room. Eyes widened, and breaths were held. What could she reveal? And would it be enough to turn the tide against the towering figure standing before her? As the atmosphere pulsated with tension, one thing became clear. The night was far from over, and the stakes were about to rise even higher. Would the crowd discover a truth they weren't ready for? Or was this just the beginning of something more sinister? The room remained frozen in time as the woman's finger hovered above the screen. All eyes were glued to her, hearts racing as anticipation crackled in the air. Every second felt like an eternity. I hope you're ready for your reality check, she said, a hint of a smile twisting her lips. The millionaire's expression caused a chill to creep up the spine of those watching. It was a mix of anger and fear, like a cornered animal. Put it down, he barked, voice rising. People flinched at the raw power in his command, but the woman stood resolute. Or what? You'll threaten me? Your intimidation fails here. She pressed a button, and the phone's screen glowed, casting eerie shadows on her face. She then turned it toward the crowd. A hum of murmurs drowned out the heavy silence, faces filled with concern. On cue, the screen flickered to life, revealing a grainy video. Gasps erupted around the room, a gasp so sharp it could pierce silence. The frame held a blurry image of a man, the millionaire, standing over a desk, papers strewn everywhere. Shadows danced across his face, but there was no mistaking the familiar contours. The woman's voice cut through the rising commotion. This is you, isn't it? Look closely. As the video played, the tension tightened like a vice. The footage showed quick flashes of heated exchanges with individuals whose faces were obscured, but anxiety radiated from their every gesture. It was clear he had been rattling cages, orchestrating deals festered with raw greed. The millionaire's facade began to crumble. The crowd saw his fingers twitch as he bristled at the implications laid bare before him. That could be anyone, he ferociously claimed, his voice cracking. Oh, really? She cocked her head, a hint of disdain in her tone. Then tell me, do you remember this conversation? The video shifted again, and a clear audio clip echoed through the room. Do what you need to protect this empire at all costs. Destroy anyone who stands in your way. Shockwaves rippled through the crowd. Gasps resounded like thunder. The faces of those who once revered the millionaire turned, whispers igniting fervent discussions filled with fear and disbelief. The woman turned back to the millionaire, her eyes narrowing, alive with triumph. They're all afraid of you, and what you might do to silence them. But someone exists who isn't afraid of you, and I'm she. Shut it off, he shouted, desperation lacing his words. The walls felt like they were closing in. The glitz of the evening dimmed, replaced by a raw threat looming over the soiree. With deliberate calm, the woman took a step forward, lowering her phone. Do you think this will silence me? I'm just getting started. A fire ignited in her eyes, a determination that mirrored the tension in the room. You're a fool if you think this one tea cost you, he sneered. But there was a tremor in his voice, a crack that betrayed the monster beneath his bravado. The echo of her words landed like a bite. And you're a fool if you underestimate everyone around you. In that moment, a loud crash erupted from the back of the hall. Chairs toppled as a figure burst onto the scene, panting and wild-eyed. You have to get out of here now. Panic skyrocketed, each glance toward the door shattering the fragile silence. The energy shifted. The crowd sensed that a storm was brewing. The million-dollar facade shattered. But who was this new arrival? What danger loomed closer than they dared to imagine? Time was running out as the fear washed over them like an incoming tide, and soon enough, everyone would know. The stakes were about to rise even higher. What secrets still lay hidden in the shadows? And who, if anyone, would emerge unscathed? The woman barely had time to register the shock of the new arrival as the crowd erupted into chaos. Voices raised, feet stamped over each other in desperate searches for safety. What is happening? Someone cried. What does he know? Please. You don't understand. The newcomer shouted, their voice cutting through the madness. We have to leave right now. The lights of the hall flickered, casting the room in unsettling flashes. Faint fear hung in the air, wrapping around the guests like a shroud. The millionaire, shaking now, took a step back, visibly sweating. Who are you? He demanded, his bravado almost entirely stripped away. I'm someone who knows what is coming. The figure said, frantic eyes darting to the exits. You need to trust me. You all do. The crowd began to close in, murmurs about threats and betrayal rising in volume. The woman stood her ground, watching the scene unfold with awe and anxiety tangling in her gut. What do you know? She called, trying to anchor her voice. The newcomer locked eyes with her, revealing a desperate truth. I worked for him. I know what he is capable of. It's more than what any of you think. The million-dollar facade was crumbling, but curiosity gripped the crowd. They could smell blood in the water. What else? The woman pressed, heart racing. You have to tell us now. Do you not see? He has been setting up a trap that goes beyond these walls, reaching places where you can't even imagine. You think this was just about business? It's about survival. Gasps shot through the audience, eyes wide with horror. The millionaire's mask slipped a little further, revealing panic lurking behind. You're lying. He countered weakly, fists clenched at his sides. I'm not lying. There are people watching you right now, dangerous people. The tension held like a taut rope, threatening to snap. Suddenly, the lights flickered again once, twice, then went dark. The hall plunged into abysmal blackness, and the air charged with a palpable energy of fear. Gasps turned to screams, voices lost in the clamor of panic. Stay calm. Everyone stay calm. The woman shouted, her voice barely rising above the din. We have to think clearly, think. The millionaire's voice was a low growl, infused with dread. In the dark? You're out of your mind. A piercing shriek cut through the panic, echoing in the darkness, followed by a loud crash. The sound of glass shattering met their ears and frayed nerves frizzled with every passing second. Go for the exits. The newcomer yelled, pushing toward the nearest door. Now. We don't have time. As orders clashed with the rising tension, the woman's heart pounded in her chest. She felt the weight of the crowd pushing her closer to the chaos, indecision twisting within her. Should they trust this stranger? Was the millionaire's empire truly built on deadly lies? Suddenly, the flickering lights returned, revealing a scene of disarray. Chairs upturned, faces twisted in fear, yet a new figure emerged from shadows at the back. Someone who shouldn't have been there. Someone looking for retribution. What secrets are brewing? The figure asked, a smirk playing at the corners of their lips. The atmosphere shifted again, bruised by uncertainty, as eyes fell upon the new arrival. Whispers swept like wildfire, each heartbeat echoing a dangerous question. What was going to ignite next? And whose dark history was about to resurface in the most unexpected way? The crowd gasped collectively as the new figure stepped into the light, revealing a breathtaking visage that sent shivers down the woman's spine. Dressed in sleek black, with piercing gray eyes glinting dangerously, they radiated a smug confidence that seemed almost intoxicating. A sense of dread swept through the hall, tightening like a noose around their throats. Who the hell are you? Someone shouted, anger and fear spilling into the space. The tension was electric, each heartbeat echoing the chaotic frenzy brewing beneath the surface. The newcomer shrugged casually, infiltrating the sea of fear with an unsettling ease. Just someone interested in the mess you've all gotten yourselves into. They surveyed the chaos around them, eyes glimmering with a strange excitement. I came to collect what is owed. What is owed? The millionaire's voice trembled in the wake of his bravado, his posture betraying the icy grip of fear. Secrets, the newcomer responded with a wry smile, brushing a stray strand of hair over their shoulder. You see, every empire rests on hidden truths, and yours is no different. Cautious murmurs snaked through the crowd, uncertain of what revelation might follow. The millionaire's jaw tightened as he tried to maintain his composure. You think you can intimidate me? I built this place. My money protects me. Your money is just the icing on a very dangerous cake. The figure snapped back, the smirk fading into a fierce scowl. You don't know who you're dealing with. The crowd shifted, curiosity and panic churning in a cauldron of tension. What do you know? The woman shouted again, her voice rising above the noise as adrenaline coursed through her veins. What is going to happen next? The figure's gaze turned piercing, locking onto hers, and in that moment, the weight of their unspoken knowledge bore down heavily. Everything you cherish could slip away in an instant, they articulated, voice low and smooth. Lives are at stake. A deep rumble echoed from outside, causing the lights to flicker erratically again. The crowd bristled, eyes darting toward the exits, the panic rapidly infectious. As screams erupted anew, the woman felt a flicker of resolve. This was not just a moment of chaos, it was a reckoning. Listen, she shouted, standing tall amidst the chaos. We can't let fear rule us. If we find a way out together, but her voice was drowned in the uproar, her rallying cry lost amidst the panic. Suddenly, the lights surged back to life, but remained dim, casting a sinister pall over the crowd. The air felt thick with anticipation, like a storm about to break. Screams echoed from outside, the sound of sirens circling the building growing louder, a chilling sign that whatever game was being played out was far more deadly than anyone had expected. The newcomer narrowed their eyes, glancing towards the door. We're out of time. We need to move. Where? The millionaire stammered, panic masking his rage. Where the hell do we go? A sharp crack filled the air. The front doors burst open, and armed figures, dark silhouettes against the dim light, poured in like shadows come to life. Gasps filled the room, eyes widening as realization struck. Now, the stranger commanded, pushing through the crowd. The woman's heart raced as she followed, instinct guiding her feet even as clarity slipped away. Could anyone truly be trusted? Beneath the pulse of horror, a nagging question clawed at her mind. What indeed had this millionaire built? How deep did the rabbit hole go? In that chaos, one thing was for certain. Walls held secrets that were begging to be unraveled, and every revelation could mean the difference between life and death. What other truths lay hidden in the shadows, waiting to be exposed? The evening was far from over, and the darkness had only just begun to reveal its most tangled web. The crowd erupted into a frenzy as the armed figures stormed in. Panic surged like a tidal wave, and the once chic gallery transformed into a chaotic battlefield. People stumbled over one another, desperate to escape, but their feet felt glued to the ground, fear rendering them paralyzed. Move! The stranger yelled again, their voice piercing through the din. The woman felt a tug at her sleeve as the newcomer yanked her away from the surge of bodies. Heart pounding, she followed them toward a narrow corridor that cut away from the main room. Stay close, the stranger commanded, their urgency palpable. She could see the tension etched across their sharp features. Whoever they were, they seemed to know the danger looming behind them. The hallway was dim, stark metal framing that echoed their footsteps as they darted through the shadows. The sirens outside blared menacingly, and the woman's breath quickened. Each inhale felt heavier, laced with the acrid scent of fear. She couldn't shake the feeling that terror was now a companion, a specter joining her every step. Why are they here? She managed to croak out, the words barely recovering the breath they stole. Someone's looking for the truth, the figure replied tersely. And they won't stop until they find it. As they turned a corner, the air thickened, the noise behind them muffled as they ventured deeper into the bowels of the building. Dim lights flickered ominously, casting long, grotesque shadows that danced on the walls. Each flicker felt like a countdown to disaster. "Who are you?" she demanded, urgency igniting her voice. "You know something. Tell me." Instead of responding, the stranger paused, eyes narrowing as they scanned their surroundings. "They're tracking us." "What?" Panic shot through her. "How do you know?" "Because I helped design the security system," they stated flatly, then glanced back at her, intensity etched in their expression. "But that doesn't mean I know what is coming next. I'm here to stop it." The declaration hung in the air, charged and electric. She felt a jolt of hope mixed with dread. If they could prevent the incoming storm, what were they truly up against? Just as they turned to continue, a sharp noise shattered the silence, a gunshot resonating from somewhere deeper within the building. It felt as if the sound echoed inside her skull, reverberating with an urgency that ignited her adrenaline. "Run!" the newcomer shouted, and she forced her legs to move even as they trembled. They ducked through a door, plunging into a room filled with crates and long-abandoned art pieces. The dim glow filtered through the dusty air. Her heart thundered in her chest, and for a split second, they paused, listening. Heavy footsteps pounded against the floor outside. The shadows shifted, and her stomach knotted. What had she gotten herself into? "Who are they?" she whispered, the fear gripping her voice. "Men who will do anything to silence the truth. They've come too far, and they don't intend to leave empty-handed." Every instinct screamed at her to flee, but another thought clawed back into the forefront of her mind. "What do they want?" The figure gave a knowing glance. "Everyone has a secret, but some are deadlier than others." Before she could respond, another gunshot rang out, closer this time, drowning out the possibility of debating their choices. The walls felt like they were closing in, a trapped feeling that threatened to suffocate her thoughts. "Now." The stranger yanked her towards a hatch embedded in the floor, the sleek metal glistening under the weak light. "We don't have time." Just as they reached it, the door burst open, a figure silhouetted against the light, a guardian of chaos promising retribution. In that moment, her heart sank. She was standing on the edge, and the leap into the unknown beckoned. Would she cave into fear or step forward into the dark depth of secrets? One thing was certain. Uncovering the truth meant risking everything. And as the darkness closed in, she had to make a choice. Would she fight back against the tide of chaos, or would she become just another secret buried beneath the weight of silence? The next events could undo everything or unleash a storm far bigger than she ever imagined. They barely made it through the hatch when the heavy door slammed shut behind them, echoing in the small confined space. The world above felt like a distant nightmare, muffled sounds trickling down, but the chaos remained a tempest confined to another realm. The stranger flipped a switch, and a pale light illuminated their surroundings, revealing darkened walls lined with dusty equipment and old, forgotten gadgets. It smelled stale and damp, a stark contrast to the luxury they had fled moments ago. "Where are we?" she gasped, trying to calm her racing heart. "A safe room," the stranger replied, tension lacing their voice. "At least for now. They can't track us here yet." "Yet?" she echoed, panic tightening in her chest like a vice. "How long do we have?" "I don't know," they muttered, eyes darting around as if judging the walls. "This isn't a permanent solution. We need to move again soon." Taking a breath, she forced herself to focus. "Okay, what do we do next?" The stranger's gaze fell hard on her. "We have to access the mainframe. It holds the information they want. If we can get it first, we might stand a chance." "Information about what?" Her voice wavered, but she pressed on. She needed clarity. "About a network, a secret, all-encompassing plan. And they believe the truth lies within that data. If they get it, they will silence anyone who threatens to expose them." Her thoughts spun. "And you can access this mainframe? I designed it, remember?" The stranger shot back, frustration crackling in their tone. "Which is why they came for me." A noise above nearly knocked her to the ground, a loud crash, followed by voices. They were close. Too close. "Their search grid will move down here," the stranger said, urgency creeping into every word. "We need to get to the console, it's this way." She followed blindly, her heart thudding loudly in her ears as they made their way through the narrow corridors that split into different paths, a labyrinth filled with shadows and uncertainty. The stranger led with deftness, but her mind was a whirlwind, thoughts colliding against one another. Did she want to know the truth? The weight of knowledge could be suffocating. But the truth was the only weapon left against the gathering storm outside. They reached a small room, cluttered yet functional, housing an ancient-looking computer that hummed to life. The stranger moved with a quick precision, fingers flying over the keyboard as they accessed layers of security. Come on, the words were barely out when the computer screen jolted, flashing warnings. Someone's trying to override the system, the stranger said, urgency flooding their voice. They're onto us. Can't you stop it? She urged, anxiety coursing through her veins. Not without time the room suddenly shook, and the lights flickered. An explosion rattled the walls, echoing like thunder, the sound growing closer. What was that? She shouted, reality crashing down around them. Backup generators. They're trying to cut the power. Panic twisted her stomach. Then we're running out of time. Just hold on. The stranger yelled as they punched in a final command. I can stall them, but we need to be ready to go. Then, with a sudden jolt, the console beeped, and the screen lit up with rows of data. I'm in, the stranger said, breathless with triumph. Can you retrieve what you need? Almost just a little longer. Her eyes scanned the shadows outside the door, every creak sounding like a death knell. They couldn't stay here. Not now. But then, a thick silence enveloped the room. The sounds above stopped. It was too quiet. Something's wrong, she whispered, trembling. Don't look back, the stranger warned, but she couldn't help it. Her instincts screamed at her to prepare for the worst. The lock clicked. The door was pushed open slowly by gloved hands, revealing a figure, eyes cold and unyielding. The stranger stood between her and the intruder, protective and defiant. In that moment, she realized that the storm was here. Now what? She barely breathes, fear tightening around her throat. But the answer was cut short, lost in the sound of chaos bursting forth once more. Would they find a way to escape, or would the truth they sought to protect become their ultimate downfall? The final play was unfolding before them, and the next decision could change everything. She barely had time to process the looming figure in the doorway when the gloved hands shot forward, gripping her stranger's shoulder with steel-like strength. The stranger reacted instinctively, training kicking in as they shoved her backward and positioned themselves as a barrier. Fear swelled within her, and she pressed against the metal wall, wide-eyed and breathless. Get out of here, the stranger shouted, voice raw with urgency. The intruder, a man with an austere demeanor, surveyed the room with predatory eyes, a smirk spreading across his lips. You think you can hide down here? His voice dripped with disdain. You're out of time and out of options. A chill shot down her spine. She felt the reality of their situation, the inevitable confrontation was at hand. Around them, the dim light flickered erratically, underscoring the urgency pulsing in the air. The stranger's fingers tensed, ready to act. Do you really think you can protect her? The intruder taunted, eyes narrowing, gleaming like shards of glass. You're a fool if you think this old junk can shield you from what's coming. Just as the stranger stepped forward to confront him, a low rumble echoed through the space. The walls trembled under the weight of an unseen force, the entire structure struggling against the insurgent chaos above. She could feel her heart hammering against her ribs, terror and adrenaline fueling her instincts to flee in a heartbeat. The lights dimmed, plunging them into darkness. For a split second, silence consumed all, the only indication of their peril being the heavy breathing that filled the room. Quick! Over here! The stranger's voice pierced through the darkness, guiding her as they made a desperate dash past the intruder, who seemed temporarily disoriented by the power flicker. They stumbled through the narrow corridors, breathless and panicking, dodging equipment and debris. A siren blared overhead, a shriek that amplified the terror coursing through her veins. Where were they going? What was the next move? We have to access the secondary exit, the stranger said, glancing back nervously. There's an emergency exit at the far end. If we can reach it, will it help us? She cried, her voice breaking, fragmented by fear. It's better than staying here. The stranger turned abruptly around the corner, leading her into a space that felt even more claustrophobic. Shadows danced grotesquely along the walls. She could envision the intruder recovering, the relentless predator who wouldn't stop until they were cornered. Just as they rounded another corner, the lights flickered back on, revealing the entrance to a room adorned with screens displaying cryptic codes and maps. A console stood center stage, alive and sparking with raw potential. "They'll track us through here," she warned, feeling the vulnerability radiating off her. "Stay with me," the stranger instructed, urgency sharpening their voice. "If we can upload the data now, we can use it as leverage. It will give us time to escape. But I need you to keep watch." The screens flickered menacingly, depicting segments of information desperately waiting to be harnessed. The urgency of their situation heightened as she nodded, willing to fight back against the encroaching despair. But the tension wasn't just in their immediate space. It was in the air, thickening with fear and distrust. The intruder's footsteps echoed ominously, growing closer. Tom wasn't on their side. "Do you hear that?" she whispered, glancing nervously at the doorway. "I hear it," the stranger replied, fingers poised over the keyboard. Just a few more seconds, the beeping from the console quickened, announcing that something major was happening. Sweat trickled down her back. Did they even have enough time? What would happen if they didn't get this data? Would they be silenced forever? Before she could voice her fears, the door rattled violently, splintering under the force of a sudden kick. The lock groaned, and powerful hands pounded fiercely against the metal. "Move." The stranger's command sent adrenaline surging. With the data uploading, and the door about to give way, the weight of their lives hung in the balance. One choice could change everything. Would they uncover the truth, or become unwitting victims in a grim game of cat and mouse? What would they find when the door burst open? The door exploded inward with a crack that sent shards of metal flying. The intruder, now fully revived from the earlier confusion, charged into the room with an intensity that set her heart racing. She could feel the heat radiating off him, fury glowing in his eyes as he scanned for his prey. "You think you can escape?" he barked, voice rough as gravel. "Almost there." The stranger's fingers flew over the keyboard, urgency fueling their movements. The screen flashed, lines of data surging like a river, threatening to spill over. "Stop her," the intruder commanded, lunging forward. She felt an instinctive dread curl in her gut. "No," she screamed, fear bursting forth like a wildfire. The 100 thoughts swirled around her head, suffocating her. Just then, the stranger shouted, "I've got it," a triumphant grin igniting their face, lighting the tension with hope. The screen blinked with a green light that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Let us go now." But before they could dart past the door, the intruder lunged. In an instant, chaos erupted. The stranger tackled him, the two crashing into the wall, their bodies colliding with a thud that reverberated through her. For a heartbeat, she froze, caught between flight and fight as the reality of their peril crashed over her. "Run!" the stranger yelled, wrestling against the encroaching danger. With adrenaline fueling her, she turned and sprinted down the corridor, heart pounding in her chest like a stampede. She glanced back just for a moment, desperation etching her features. The two figures struggled in a tangle of limbs, fury consuming the stranger's movements as they grappled for control. But she didn't have time to worry. The path stretched endlessly, her mind racing with raw panic. Where was the exit? Where could she find safety? Eventually, she burst into another room, this one lined with dark steel, windows barricaded. Panic and urgency pooled in her chest as she searched for a way out. Behind her, the sound of her pursuers echoed through the hall. That is when she spotted a narrow window at the far end, just wide enough to crawl through. Hope sparked in her chest as she dashed toward it. There was no time to think. They had to escape. She pulled at it, forcing it open as the screams of the battle behind her pushed her forward. Out of breath, she wriggled through, arms scraping against the metal frame. The cold air hit her face like a wave, invigorating yet terrifying. She dropped out onto the street below, landing awkwardly, knees hitting the pavement hard. "Come on," she shouted, part of her praying the stranger would follow. A second later, the heavy thud of the door behind her shook the walls. "Go." A voice echoed, her heart leaped. The stranger burst through, face tight with determination. She turned and started running, calling out to them as they sprinted in tandem down the street, distance pulling them away from the chaos they left behind. Yet safety didn't come without a price. The sirens grew louder, the flashing lights painting the dark street in bursts of red and blue. "What is happening?" she gasped, breath hitching. "They know we escaped. They've got a manhunt underway." We can't just disappear, they want the evidence we have. Panic flashed through their eyes, and an urgency took hold. Where can we go? She asked, frantic. We can't stay here. We need to go back to my place, the stranger said, the sense of direction locking onto that one choice. It's safer. I can secure the data once we get there. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on her chest like a boulder as they dashed around a corner. It wasn't just their lives at stake. Now it was the truth buried deep within that data they had secured. It could change everything, the lifeblood of a whole network of corruption. She felt a strange mix of fear and determination blossom. They charged forward, dodging through shadows and alleyways, escaping the chaos behind them. Each footfall felt like a beat of a drum heralding their reckless escape. As they reached the noisy street, with speeding cars and streetlights flickering, a sense of wild freedom washed over her. What is next? She yelled over the noise, glancing back nervously. We'll send the evidence to the media, the stranger replied, resolve pouring through their words. They'll have to act. We've already dropped a bombshell. Now we can expose it all. But as they rushed toward a car parked nearby, she felt a lingering weight of dread settle within her gut. They won't stop until they silence us, she muttered, fear creeping back in. I know, but we can't back down. This fight is about more than us now. Their eyes met, an unspoken agreement forming in the air, a bond strengthened through danger and the shared pursuit of truth. Breathless, they stepped into the car, slamming the doors shut like a barrier against the horrors waiting outside. She held the data tightly, as if it was a lifeline anchoring her to purpose. We'll make it, the stranger assured her. In that moment, she believed. They drove away from the chaos, hearts racing with the thrill of what lay ahead as they vanished into the night. She knew their battle was only beginning. They were fighting for an empire built on lies, but they had the weapon of truth. In that moment, she felt invincible, ready to confront whatever darkness awaited them. And she felt this was just the beginning. Subscribe immediately so you don't miss any of these exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and get your community buzzing. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Show your support. You need to subscribe now.